Welcome to the Deep Dive. We're here to cut through the noise, take source material, and give you the key insights you need. Fast. Today, we're doing a fascinating deep dive into the Kumali people of Nepal. They're one of the country's ancient indigenous groups, and we're looking at their identity, their traditions, and how their culture is, well, changing. We've got sources that paint this really vivid picture, a culture that seems rooted, fundamentally, in one single traditional profession: our mission. To figure out how that core identity is holding up, especially with some pretty dramatic shifts happening in the modern world.
Yeah, it's a perfect case study, really. Community's whole sense of self, their
Yeah.
identity, is wrapped up in a specific craft. What they make gives us this unique lens, a lens to see how culture evolves. What happens when, say, the next generation starts choosing totally different paths, different jobs?
That's exactly the tension we want to explore. So, okay, let's unpack this, starting right at the beginning. The name, Kumali, because it seems to hold a major key.
It really does.
Our sources are clear. The name Kumali, it's not random. It's thought to come straight from old Sanskrit words kumhakar, or kumbh.
Right.
And for anyone not familiar, those terms mean potter, or, maybe more broadly, earthen vessel.
Which is huge. It means the name isn't just describing what they did, it's basically defining who they are. For centuries, they've been known as Nepal's skilled clay artists, the practitioners of Kumbhakari art.
So it's like their birthright, almost.
Exactly. And their status as an indigenous group is completely tied up with this deep expertise in working with clay.
Okay, so identity is centered on this craft. But geographically, they aren't just in one small spot. They're actually quite widespread across Nepal. Demographically, the Kumali are found in, well, almost all the provinces.
Yeah, pretty much across the board.
The latest census data we have from 2021 puts the community at over 100,000 people. And you find these denser pockets of settlement in places like Tanahun, Gorkha, Lamjung, Chitwan.
And Lawupur, too, right, in the Kathmandu Valley.
Yes, exactly. Lalatpur as well.
And that spread, the geography you mentioned, it actually reinforces their traditional work, doesn't it?
How so?
Well, you see them settling near riverbanks or in plains, valley villages.
Yeah.
It's not by chance. It's about resources. You need decent land for farming, sure, but crucially, you need easy access to water. For the clay, finding it, processing it, and for fishing, too.
Ah, okay. So the location dictates the livelihood.
Absolutely. Their whole traditional way of life, farming, fishing, and pottery, it's all tied to that specific kind of location, near water, near clay sources.
It really sets the stage for a life deeply connected to the land, to the earth itself. And that connection shows up in their culture, too. Even their traditional homes were often built from mud and thatch, literally using the materials around them, including the clay they worked.
Yeah, that physical connection is really strong. And what's also interesting is how that connection, maybe that reliance on shared resources, shaped their community structure.
You mean their social organization?
Right. The Kumali community is known for being very cooperative, very collective. And historically, they managed village affairs through something called the panchayat system.
The panchayat, that sounds important. It wasn't just like an informal council?
No, it was more formal than that.
Yeah.
It is their functional system for, making community decisions, even handling disputes.
Yeah.
Think of it like their local judicial and management body.
So deciding how resources were shared, settling arguments, all handled internally by this collective body.
Exactly. It really highlights how vital that local cooperation was, especially when your livelihood depends so heavily on things like access to clay beds or fishing spots, resources you have to share.
That cooperative spirit, it also comes through powerfully in their cultural expressions, right? Especially performance.
Oh, definitely. They have this incredibly rich tradition of dance. And these dances, they tell the stories of their lives.
We're talking about dances like the Sarathi Nak, the Ganto Nak.
Those often deal with themes like love, the cycles of farming, the changing seasons, the rhythm of agricultural life.
But the one that really jumps out, given everything we've said about pottery, is the Radomado Nak.
The red clay dance.
Yeah,
Literally.
Red clay dance.
Yeah.
The symbolism there is pretty direct.
It is. These dances aren't just for fun. They're living stories, narratives. And the Radomado Nach specifically, it celebrates the earth, the red clay itself, as the source of their life, their identity, their craft, their prosperity.
It's like a physical embodiment of that connection to the clay.
Profound one, yeah.
Okay, but wait. If that dance, the Radomado Nak, is so central, so symbolic of the red clay, the thing they're named after, What happens to its meaning now when, as you said, younger generations might not be working with clay anymore? Does the dance just become history, or does the meaning shift?
That is the big question they're grappling with, I think. It's about whether the spiritual connection can be maintained, even if the day-to-day economic link fades. And that spiritual connection is powerful. If you look at the broader faith system, the absolute core of it is nature worship, pure and simple.
Nature worship, meaning
They revere the sun, water, trees, hills, and especially the land itself, Bhumi, the earth.
okay. Now, our sources also mention blending with Hinduism over time. They celebrate Hindu deities, major festivals like Dashain, Tihar, Magha Sankranti.
True, there's definitely been blending and syncretism, like in many communities, but, and this is crucial, that traditional earth-focused worship is still incredibly prevalent. You see it in practices like Durali Puja or Venadevi Puja, that's the worship of the forest goddess.
Forest goddess.
Yeah. So despite modern influences, that deep reverence for the natural world, the world that provides the clay, that sustains them, that remains their spiritual anchor, it's fundamental.
Fascinating. Okay, let's shift gears slightly. From belief systems to communication, they have their own unique language, right?
They do, the Kumal language. It belongs to the Tibeto-Burmese language family.
And how is it faring?
Well, this is where you really see that collision between modernity and heritage. Like many indigenous languages globally, Kumal is considered vulnerable.
Meaning fewer people are speaking it.
Yes, especially in more urban areas. Many community members now primarily speak Nepali, the national language. But there are active conservation efforts underway.
Oh, good. Like what?
Things like trying to teach the Kumal language in local schools, actively using it in folk songs, in cultural programs, trying to keep it alive and relevant.
That sounds absolutely vital, especially because, well, this brings us back to the core issue. The main economic pillar of their identity, the pottery, it seems to be struggling.
It is. It's facing challenges in today's globalized economy.
Which leads us right into this major shift in occupations, the heart of the tension we talked about.
Right.
Traditionally, the Kumalis were defined by that trio. Pottery, maybe making some tools from stone and bamboo, fishing, farming, that was the life.
That was the core, yeah.
But the modern jobs listed in our sources, it's a completely different world.
It really is. You're seeing growing numbers moving into formal employment, into the civil service.
Becoming teachers, joining the police, the military.
Exactly. And also getting involved in business, even politics.
That's a huge shift. From being defined by the land and the resource to being defined more by the state or the service sector.
It's a fundamental change in the economic base.
Yeah.
It means less direct reliance on the immediate environment for your daily survival and more reliance on these formal institutions and jobs.
And the direct consequence of that.
The direct consequence is that the traditional clay work, the kumbhakari art that defined them for literally centuries, it's declining.
Just can't compete.
It's incredibly hard for handmade, traditional crafts to compete with cheap, mass-produced goods. It's a story we see worldwide, unfortunately.
So are there efforts to, I don't know, save it?
Yes, definitely. This is why organizations like the Kumal Sanskriti Sanrakshan Samiti have become so important.
The Kumal Culture Conservation Committee.
That's the one. They're putting resources not just into the language, but specifically into trying to revitalize the pottery itself. They recognize that if the craft disappears entirely,
A huge piece of the identity goes with
it's
it.
foundational piece.
Yeah. It sounds like a real race against time then to preserve that knowledge, those skills.
It feels that way sometimes.
And yet, despite this economic shift, the cultural expression, like the music, seems to remain strong.
Very strong. Our sources talk a lot about Kumal songs, folk tunes, beautiful melodies, and the themes. They're still all about love, nature, the earth, the value of hard work.
So the music carries the heritage forward.
Even if the hands aren't necessarily shaping the clay in the same way or as often, the spirit of it endures in the music and dance.
Okay, let's try and pull this together. If we summarize the key takeaways from this deep dive, the Kumali identity is, first and foremost, intrinsically linked to the history of pottery. It's literally in their name, Kumbhakar.
Absolutely. That's point number one.
Second, their culture is deeply anchored in this unique system of nature worship revering Bhumi, the earth, the forest goddess.
That spiritual connection to the natural world.
And third, this culture is expressed vividly through very specific symbolic dances, especially that Rato Matonak, the red clay dance.
Right. The tangible and intangible heritage are deeply interwoven.
So what we've really seen here is a community. How would you put it? Maintaining its connection.
Yeah, maintaining a profound spiritual connection to nature and holding on to a distinct language. Even while its traditional economic base, the pottery, has shifted dramatically. They're moving into modern jobs, teaching, civil service, etc. And this just highlights that ongoing, really difficult tension, doesn't it?
Between what? Preserving heritage and...
Preserving a specialized resource-based heritage on the one hand, and the absolute necessity of adapting to a rapidly changing economic world on the other.
It really is the ultimate balancing act.
It is.
Which leaves us with a final thought, something for you, the listener, to consider. We've seen how the name Kumali fundamentally means the potter. But if the economic need and maybe even the widespread practice of that traditional craft fades away entirely, what becomes the defining anchor for this community's identity in the future, for the next generations? If that physical connection to the red clay diminishes, is the spiritual connection, the cultural memory embedded in dance and song, strong enough on its own to sustain the core of what it means to be Kumali?
A profound question indeed.
Something to think about. That's it for this deep dive.